Find the idea. QD8 plus works only if one defender is overloaded. What would you play? Now rewind. Judith Polgar has white against Polgar-Hulak in OHRA-B. The point is not to memorize moves. In this episode, track the quiet mystery. The natural answer, the piece with too many jobs, and the square that proves the tactic was prepared. If a move does not change one of those things, we move quickly. If it does, we stop and turn it into a question you can use at the board. First quiet clue. This move earns its screen time by changing the open file before the forcing line appears. This is the first real clue. Now 3. CXD4 is the next pressure test after 2. E6. Second exchange, not just points. One guard leaves, and the bishop route around move 3 becomes easier to see. The previous checkpoint, 2. E6. Changed the defender map before 3. CXD4. 3. CXD4 sets up the next question at 12. Ray 1. Pause here. What square became harder to defend after 3? CXD4? No fireworks yet, but the trap is getting organized around move 12. Watch the back rank room, where the king can still breathe. The board is already drifting from 12. Ray 1 toward 20, QA7+. Fourth king safety audit. If the reply damages the loose defender, the next tactic gets easier. Look back 1 checkpoint, 12. Ray 1 made the position fragile enough for 20, QA7+. This is the bridge to 23, QXF1+, where the defender has fewer choices. Fifth initiative in plain sight. The motive detail matters because the forced reply still needs an answer. That is why 27. QH7+ is not just notation. It is a new problem created by 23, QXF1+. Sixth collapse warning. The check forces a reply while the pawn shield stays weak. A quiet detail from 23, QXF1+ is still hanging in the air when 27, QH7+ arrives. Seventh timing question. If the defender spends this move on survival, which square became a highway? 28. QG6+ sets up the next question at 29. QE6+. Eighth check with a purpose. The king answers first, so the trade choice can decide the next move. After QE6+, can the king and defender both stay useful? The board is already drifting from 29. QE6+ toward 33. QB8+. Ninth forcing checkpoint. Counterplay pauses while we inspect the entry point. Which defender cannot cover both threats? The previous checkpoint, 29. QE6+. Changed the defender map before 33. QB8+. This is the bridge to 34. ND5+, where the defender has fewer choices. 10th tempo hit. A quiet defense would be nice, but this check makes the rook lift urgent. What does ND5+ reveal about the king's real cover? That is why 35. QE5+ is not just notation. It is a new problem created by 34. ND5+. 11th king safety audit. If the reply damages the minor piece net, the next tactic gets easier. Look back 1 checkpoint, 34. ND5+ made the position fragile enough for 35. QE5+. Now 35. KD8 is the next pressure test after 35. QE5+. Pause here. What line opened because 35? QE5+ forced the issue? This is how initiative grows before the punchline. The move does not win immediately, but it changes the final corridor. 35. KD8 sets up the next question at 36. QXD5+. 13th collapse warning. The check forces a reply while the open file stays weak. A quiet detail from 35. KD8 is still hanging in the air when 36. QXD5+ arrives. The threat is still partly hidden. That is why this move is dangerous. It improves the dark square cover before the tactic announces itself. This is the bridge to 37. QC5+, where the defender has fewer choices. 15th check with a purpose. The king answers first, so the back rank room can decide the next move. QC5+ spends a tempo for the king. Where does counterplay go? That is why 37, KB8 is not just notation. It is a new problem created by 37. QC5+. 16th pressure move. It makes a later tactic believable by improving the overload or limiting a reply. The previous checkpoint, 37. QC5+, changed the defender map before 37, KB8. Now 38. QB6+ is the next pressure test after 37, KB8. Pause here. Did 37, KB8 change material, tempo, or access first? 17th tempo hit. A quiet defense would be nice, but this check makes the tempo race urgent. Which defender cannot use its ideal square after QB6+? 38. QB6+ sets up the next question at 38. RB7. The board gets less comfortable for the defender. The shelter crack is becoming harder to ignore after this move. Look back one checkpoint, 38. QB6+ made the position fragile enough for 38. RB7. 19th initiative in plain sight. The clue detail matters because the piece route still needs an answer. This is the bridge to 39. K7 where the defender has fewer choices. Pause here. Which defender just picked up an extra job after 39? QD8+? A small improvement can be a big warning. If the opponent treats the recapture problem as harmless, the next forcing move lands harder. A quiet detail from 39. QD8+ is still hanging in the air when 39, K7 arrives. Late defender count changes. A safe-looking position turns into a trap when the entry point has no spare helper. That is the proof behind the finish. The lesson from Polgar-Hulak's hidden queen trap is concrete. The final tactic works because the earlier moves changed the defender map. In the My Chess Coach lesson, replay the quiet mystery positions, solve the puzzles, and name the clue before the payoff. The candidate move, the overloaded piece, or the square that changed. Then run the same checklist in your own game before you grab material or defend automatically. That turns this finish into a pattern you can recognize in real positions, not just a highlight you admire once.